Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Those of you that were here last week, you saw the overview of what we're doing with New Start. And, we sent out the video link and, a lot of people got text. I bombarded people with like, hey, watch watch this video. Um, so, hopefully everyone's a little bit up to speed. So we just kind of want to walk you through how this is going to go. We're going to have our Tuesday meetings where I'm telling you guys about what we're going to take inside, and it's not just for the people inside. It's a lifestyle for everybody, but we're starting it as workshops in prison, um, and we're going to give you an overview of it so you can see. And in the long run, we want everybody to learn this material, and then we can pair you with people who are inside, and you can go through it with them. As I said, we're really on our focus is reminding everybody that they're the hero of their own story. So everybody is on this heroic journey, but everybody needs a guide, right? So this material is what worked for me. It helped me. I'm going to use it to help guide others, and everybody who completes it will be able to use it to guide others in their journeys as well. So business first. We had a meeting with the CRM from CTF, which is Correctional Training Facility, Soledad. I ran her through the introduction to what we're doing, and she was like, "Well, I want to do it, like, whether you bring it into them or not. Like, I want to do this." We are tentatively scheduled for sometime this fall, September, October, to go run our first workshop in Soledad. And she's also like, what do you want to do? What type of classes do you want to run? She's giving us free reign. We can go in there and provide whatever type of programming that we want. So this is amazing because we didn't have programming for many, many years, as Jesse can attest to. And now that we are getting the chance to be free, we're able to go out and give people in the same situation programming that was not available to us and was so necessary for our transformations. And this is just a start. We have five other institutions that have already reached out and said they want to talk, they want to figure out how to get in there, how we want to do it. So, we're on this we're going to go everywhere and we're going to figure it out. We'll chase the funding as we get more opportunities, but we're going to go in and we're going to teach people this material and we're going to help them understand that they're the heroes of their journey. And in that, there will be parole preparation, there will be substance abuse that's based on trauma. Everything will follow the same pattern of the descent and finding the treasure and then the will to return. So this is, myth teaches us that the greatest heroes in all of mythology were the ones who descended into the underworld and faced their greatest fears to bring back the treasure that would save their community, their city, their state, the world. Sometimes it saved the wrath of the gods from coming down on the people. But this is the journey that we're starting with. And in that, everybody has to determine, that they are the hero. And that's something that's hard for a lot of us. We forget. We're taught that we're not. We're taught that we're not good enough. We can't do it. But the thing is, once you realize that you are the hero, once you reclaim your narrative and take ownership of your story, you can become whatever you want to become. You can do anything. And there's a concept, I was a big geek growing up, so I'm going to share this with you. There's a concept in a game, it's called Dungeons and Dragons, in a game called Dungeons and Dragons. I was a big D&D nerd. In Dungeons and Dragons, before anything can take place in this game, you have to embrace a concept which they call suspension of disbelief. So, in suspension of disbelief, if you're in the game and you don't think that you're able to jump off a building and do a somersault and jump up and grab the brass ring or whatever it is that you need to do, if you put logic into it and go, well, you couldn't technically do this, you start bringing disbelief into the game doesn't work. But the thing is, this is our story. We are only limited by our own disbelief. So in the journey of life, we have to suspend disbelief. We have to believe that we can do anything. Anything is possible. Everything's possible. I went to prison at 15 years old. I was never supposed to come home. They said, you're never getting out of prison. You're never going to rehabilitate. You're never going to live at the beach. You're never going to be able to train dogs. You're never going to do any of that. And when they had control of my story, that was what it was. Nothing could happen. I was going to die in prison, and that was it. That was the only option I had because I didn't have control of my story. I wasn't my own hero. Once I started doing the work and I started understanding that they don't dictate who I am, I was able to change that. I got away from the criminal mentality, the gangs, the politics, the violence, all the things that happened in my life that were everyday occurrences and that were normalized because that's what I learned growing up. Once I moved away from that, I got out of prison. I live at the beach. I'm married to a beautiful woman who came from another country to be with me. I've met wonderful people, and coming out, you come out with this idea that people are going to know who you are and what you did, and you're going to live in that the shadow of your life previously for the rest of your life. I thought everybody was going to know my past, the crimes I had committed, the gangs I was involved in, the tattoos that I have. And I got out here and people don't care. I limited myself in what the belief I had. The belief that I had limited me from knowing that I could accomplish anything. I mean, I'm a pretty cocky guy, so I was always like, yeah, I'll figure it out. But I didn't really understand that it's not just figuring out. I had to make it happen. And the first step of that was suspending disbelief. I walked out and said, you know what? I can do this. I don't care if the whole world is against me. I can stand up and I can make this happen. We've learned throughout history, and it's something that I stand by, is that obstacles exist to be overcome. And when you overcome obstacles, that's the only way that you find true happiness in life. If you're walking through life and everything is handed to you, you have it pretty good, but do you really understand the joy of overcoming an obstacle? When you had something up against you and then you said, you know what? I don't care how hard it is. I'm going to make this work. And then you get past that obstacle, that rock in the road, that video game level that you spent 6 months on, whatever it is, and you find happiness. You're like, wow, I feel so much better because I did this, because I faced that and I got through it. Same thing with dog training. Dogs are stubborn as heck, right? And eventually you teach them. Eventually they learn. And then you're happy because you brought them structure and discipline and an understanding of the rules. Because dogs, just like people, are much happier when they have rules and boundaries and structure. We want to know where we fit in. So do the dogs. So does every living being on this planet. We're happier when we know where we fit into the story. But the good thing is, we're not just we don't have to be relegated to a supporting actor in someone else's story. I can do a cameo in your story. I can even have a major part in your story, but I can never be the hero of your story. You're the only one that can do that. And that's where we find ourselves. Before we can embark on any journey, we have to decide first that we're the hero, and then what type of hero are we? You go throughout the epics of history, and you will see so many different heroes, and they were heroes for different things. Achilles was a hero with his sword. Odysseus was a hero with his mind. So all of these different things relate to your story, what type of hero you are. It's your personality. It is your destiny. It's what you're born to do. And one of the things, Rana,
On that part, are you working with archetypes? Because everybody's got a different archetype.
um, so that was what was coming up next. Thank you, Rana. She preempted us. So yes. So figuring out that is figuring out your archetype. What type of heroic archetype are you? And we've created a structure where it has 8 archetypes, which is based on ancient mythology and legend and the stories of our ancestors that gave us the knowledge that we needed to be the heroes throughout history. And unfortunately, we've forgotten most of this. The knowledge of the ancestors has become stories in a book. They're myths, they're legends, but it's not something that we see ourselves as being. And while I personally look to the Greeks and the Romans and the Sumerians and the Egyptians, this knowledge and these same type of archetypes can be found in any culture throughout history. You can turn to the Native Americans. They have many things that are going to be similar. I know Jesse can speak to that as well. There anywhere you go, there's going to be archetypes which shows this is what our people taught us that um, we were supposed to be, what we were supposed to do. But they just gave examples. So jumping into that, we've created 8 archetypes that are based on things that were personally relevant to my life and helped me in my journey. And Morgan was kind enough to put together a little bit of PowerPoint that I can use while we're talking here. So let's see if I can open this before I share my screen because technology and all that, right? Okay, so screen. Right. So our first archetype that we have, oh, and that did not work. Um, our first archetype is the guardian. And the guardian, the essence of the guardian is, the guardian is forged in fire, made strong by chaos, betrayal, or abandonment, often born in households or systems where safety was inconsistent or non-existent. The guardian becomes the shield. Their core essence is justice, loyalty, and the sacred instinct to defend what is good. These individuals are often the first to act in a crisis, the ones who hold the line when others falter. They value integrity, truth, and reliability, but they are also burdened by it. They don't trust easily, and they often feel alone in their responsibility. Their power is sacred. Their downfall is when that power becomes a wall rather than a bridge. So in our archetypes, we used Achilles and Penthesilea, who were both in the Iliad, in the Trojan War. Um, Penthesilea was the Amazonian queen who went there to go and fight and die. Achilles died because of his pride and his arrogance, but he was the greatest. His wrath um, ended his life, but it was also in this wrath he found vulnerability and mercy and things when King Priam, after he killed Hector and King Priam had to come back and ask for the body, and he kissed the hands of the man who had killed his son. But these ancient heroes are teaching us about the different qualities of what makes a good hero, a good person. So, we'll teach the stories that are associated with these archetypes, and there's also some other ones as well. Um, but some of the core beliefs of this archetype is protection is a sacred duty. Justice must be upheld no matter the cost. My strength exists to serve others. Vulnerability can coexist with power, and true leadership is rooted in integrity. So in some of our modern day examples, you can have we're going to present men, women, boys, girls, and then just general that work for everybody. So a man raised in a violent neighborhood becomes a correctional officer. Known for his discipline and command, he slowly grows emotionally distant from his family. After the death of his brother, he begins therapy and joins a restorative justice program. He now trains other officers in trauma-informed care. So you can see how his life developed, how he was the guardian, how trauma affected and afflicted him, but he brought it back around into a way that served others. So, our summary of the guardian is that the guardian is the backbone of justice, but they must remember they are human before they are the shield. If they never put down the burden, it will break them. True leadership comes not from being feared, but from being safe. The guardian's deepest power is not control, it is presence. When they remember this, they don't just hold the line, they become the line others can lean on. And this is just the essence of the guardian in itself. In our teaching of this, we're teaching this, but we're also teaching what happens when that guardian personality type, these archetypes are all personality types, is wounded by trauma. So in that case, what we have is the shade and the wounded shade. And so in these, the shade for a guardian is the enforcer, one who mistakes control for protection. So when the guardian is wounded by trauma, especially betrayal, powerlessness, or helplessness, they twist their strength into control. The enforcer rises in moments where softness was punished or vulnerability led to pain. This shade no longer protects from love, but from fear. The enforcer controls others to avoid chaos, becoming rigid, commanding, or emotionally shut down. They may still act in service, but it's no longer free. It's guarded, transactional, or punishing. They become the hammer instead of the hand. The enforcer often leads but rarely rests. They feel indispensable but deeply lonely. They project strength while secretly longing to be protected themselves. And in our analogy, as we spoke of last week with Dante and the beast, and the beast which keep you from the straight path, which we'll cover more and throughout the course, is the leopard represents incontinence or lack of self-control. The lion represents violence, and the she-wolf represents fraud. So we're when we teach about these shades, we're also teaching about shades that develop from the wounds of these specific beasts. So for the guardian, we've come up with the Punisher, and their beast is the lion. The Punisher believes that justice means pain, whether punishing others for betrayal or punishing themselves for perceived weakness. This shade lives in a cycle of escalation. It lashes out quickly and holds grudges tightly. The Punisher is often feared, sometimes respected, but rarely known. The internal voice of the Punisher says something like, "If I don't strike first, I'll be struck." The behaviors often associated with with the Punisher, is explosive temper masked as discipline, overreacts to perceived disrespect, believes punishment equals protection, uses shame or fear to maintain order. Our next one is the watchdog, and their beast is the leopard. The watchdog never stops scanning for danger. It anticipates betrayal, fears failure, and jumps into action before the threat is fully real. This shade reacts more than it responds, often misreading neutral situations as attacks. It mistakes hypervigilance for heroism. The internal voice says, "Danger is always coming. Stay alert." The behaviors are suspicious of good intentions, jumps to conclusions, constantly monitoring others, struggles to rest or let others lead. And the final one of the wounded shade, the iron wall, the beast is the she-wolf. The iron wall believes that emotional exposure is weakness. It refuses help, denies pain, and performs strength even when it's crumbling inside. This guardian upholds the image of invincibility, deceiving others and themselves into believing they're fine. The internal voice says, "If I need nothing, I can't be hurt." The behaviors are emotionally unavailable or dismissive, carries too much alone, responds to care with deflection or withdrawal, refuses to acknowledge burnout or pain. And in these archetypes here, we're going to have core beliefs. And in the core beliefs, you have that of the essence of the guardian. Oh, I've already covered that. In the shades, the core beliefs of the shades, we covered the essence. Yes, Morgan.
I don't know if you're reading from a paper in your hand, but we're not seeing what you're reading. I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry.
No,
Uh,
it's okay. That's totally fine. I didn't know. Joy had a question if we were supposed to see what you were reading from.
no,
Okay.
no, because I didn't put all of this stuff together because I was just going to cover the archetypes, and then it seemed that was appropriate. So
It's all good. I just wanted to clarify because I don't know because I've done that. So I'm like, oh, I don't know. But no, it's really good. And now we can see. So
and I'm back. Okay. Yeah, so we did the essence of the core beliefs of the essence, right? The core beliefs that we'll have of a shade in this is like the beliefs of the enforcer. If I lose control, I will be destroyed. No one else is strong enough to hold this. Power is earned through fear. Softness is a liability. Only I can ensure justice. So we're covering there. And once we get through that, then we reach into the transformation. So once they're transformed, you're going to have, sorry, I'm all over the place. We weren't going to do all of this, but I think it's important. So the heroic transformation here is that the guardian becomes the grounded leader. The guardian does not abandon strength to become whole, they integrate it. The grounded leader is someone who chooses clarity over control, steadiness over fear. They know when to hold the line and when to lay down the sword. Their power now serves, not dominates. They feel safe enough in themselves to let others in. They show that protection can be rooted in calm presence, not rage. Their body is no longer a fortress, it becomes a home. So we invite our participants from there to ask themselves questions. Do you recognize yourself in the guardian? Have you mistaken control for strength? Which wounded shade most resembles you? The Punisher, the Watchdog, or the Iron Wall? What would it take to protect others without abandoning yourself? Go ahead, Rana.
What is the process from once they pick their archetype, getting to the transformation? What's the alchemical? What's the process that they'll go through?
Okay, so we have the 8 archetypes. So they will choose one of those. It's a journey. As I said, we're going from myth and legend, but what we're using is Dante's Inferno, and the whole Divine Comedy as the cataclysm, right? So there they will have to journey through this. In Once they determine what type of hero they are, they find their archetype, they find themselves in the dark wood, which is where Dante awakes in the middle years of his life. He wants to get back to the straight way, but 3 beasts block his path: the leopard, the lion, and the she-wolf, which we have described as being the lack of self-control, um, violence, and fraud. So a guide appears, and in Dante, it's Virgil. And each section of the journey, um, it's a different guide. It's a saint in purgatory, and then it's Beatrice, his love in paradise. So as they go, as Virgil appears, he tells the hero, you can't get through this way. You want to go, and so we're gonna give them a vision of a child that needs help. So that's why they're going and trying to find this child. They don't find it, they find the beast, and then Virgil tells them they have to go through. The only way out is through. So they have to go into the inferno. They have to go in there and witness the effects of trauma on the entire world, on themselves. And each circle of hell, as those of you who know Dante's Inferno, it is 9 circles of hell. And each one is assigned to one of the beasts, um, as he goes down, because Dante made um, he delineated very clearly which sins were worse than the others in his reckoning. So each of these things are going to be trauma, but they'll recognize both their own shade in each of these circles, but also shades of others whom they've traumatized. So it helps them to recognize the effects of trauma on themselves, but it's also going to help them to recognize that the trauma they've inflicted on other people had put them there with them, right? Everybody's stuck in these circles of hell and in these shades because they're traumatizing each other. So as they journey through, they get lower and lower, and they'll see themselves more and more. until they reach the bottom where, the in Dante's telling, it's Lucifer at the bottom, and he so it and the lowest level is those who for fraud, which is betrayal, those who betrayed family and country, and obviously he saw Lucifer as the father of betrayal, and that's why he's down at the lowest part. So Dante's conception was the punishment puts you the furthest away from God. That's why Lucifer was at the very bottom, and at the very top is like unbaptized and virtuous pagans who aren't being punished. Their punishment is they couldn't get to God, right? And they're the highest. And then you go further and further down. And at the bottom you find Lucifer, who is not able to escape because he keeps fighting his fate. Everybody who's down in the ninth circle is weeping because of their punishment, and Satan is trying to get out, and he's flapping his wings, and it's freezing their tears, which freezes them into the ice. So they're stuck there. And in our conception, as we're going down, we're going to, how have you been, some of the punishments in there, whipped by the winds, chasing yourself, had your head turned around, not looking where you're going, and then, at the bottom, where have you found yourself stuck in your life? How are you stuck? How has your trauma stuck you here? And then, I mean, there's a lot of cool little things that go along with it. I mean, in the story, Satan has three heads, and each one of his heads is chewing on one of the greatest traitors in history, and there's all of that. But at the end of this, what you see is that the conception of the greatest beast is your most corrupted self. Right. This is the analogy that's going to learn, like, you betrayed your inner child. You chose these paths. You did all of these things. You left this child alone and abandoned in that lost in that dark wood. And that's why it's crying for help. So when you get here, now you have to determine that you have to face this fact. You have to face this reality. You have to face the weight and the filth of all this trauma. But this is the greatest obstacle. Once you realize that you can accept that and move forward, you have to continue the journey. And in Dante, the only way that he could get out is to go further down. So he approached Lucifer, grabbed his hairy, woolly haunches, and climbed down into a pit. And as he's climbing down, he passes the center of the earth. It's a turning point, and the entire world flips. So then he begins climbing up. You climb up out of the inferno, because remember, the only way out was through. You climb out of that, and then he climbed out onto the Mount of Purgatory. So then he ascends the terraces of purgatory, watching sin and trauma and everything be washed away. So they're taking this journey. They're realizing they saw what trauma did, the hell that it puts people in. They're taking responsibility, accountability, and then they're living with integrity, discipline, dedication. That's our thing. So they start cleansing themselves as they go up. And by the time they reach the top in paradise, which is the earthly paradise in Garden of Eden in the book, they find that the vision of the child that they saw that they didn't recognize is now here waiting for them in paradise, and it's their own inner child. So after having gone through all of this and then cleanse themselves on the way up, by the time they reach it, they're now clean and pure and ready to reunite with that child that they left behind so long ago when the decisions that they made based on their trauma that led them to prison, to gangs, to crime, to domestic violence, whatever it is that their life led them to. Now they've been burned clean, they're reborn like the phoenix. While at the top of paradise, they have the Empyrean in the story. That's where, they have the circle of the fixed stars, a circle of fire. This is where they have the angels, where they have God. And so Dante spends his time there speaking to the saints and getting wisdom. So we're taking the wisdom that we got from the ancients, and this is where after they've reunited with their child and they're ready to become the hero of their story again, they get the wisdom and the of the ancients, which will help them live live a good life and reach the straight path again. And we've distilled this down to a philosophy of living, which, I just mentioned, which is the RAID code. Live with responsibility, accountability, integrity, discipline, and dedication. And once they reach this point, they're reunited. They're the hero. But what does the hero do? The hero returns to the dark wood to help the next person walk through. So the Virgil who guided them is no longer there because they're now the Virgil that's going to guide the next person. But every time you return to this dark wood, you face the beast again. You have to face the leopard, lion, and she-wolf. If you have anger issues, you're still facing this every time you're going through. You're going to have to conquer those beasts every time you go back to help somebody else. But in helping them, you help yourself. And in helping yourself, you help others. And every time you go back to start the journey over, you're going to face them again, but it's going to be a little bit easier. But you become the guide that helps them become a guide themselves. Go ahead, Rana.
This is powerful. I mean, you're taking a person through many spheres of existence. My question, when they have, let's say somebody, their problem is anger. What modalities, if any, are you incorporating to help them with that particular, mindset?
Okay, so we have the personal, like for me, the personal thing is the RAID code. You start learning this, but we're going to have extracurricula that work specifically on each of those beasts. We're going to have a Facing the Beast curriculum that is specifically about here's what, so as we go through the archetypes, so let me read off what those were real quick just so everyone knows. You have your guardian, you have your seeker, you have your architect, you have your firebrand, you have the performer, you have the strategist, you have the caretaker, and you have the rebel. So as you go through each of those archetypes, and then you look at the wounded shades, and you can see where they resonate. Because even though all of them may work, you may see yourself in all of the archetypes because, but one's going to resonate the most. But when you look at the wounded shades, you can see of each of those which beasts they're most afflicted by. So you can kind of look and see, am I throughout them, all of the archetypes, do I have the bee, do I have the lion, do I have the leopard, do I have the she-wolf? Which one is pushing me harder, or are they equal? So will kind of have a way for them to look at the beasts they may need to face. And obviously a lot of guys it's going to, incontinence, which, is lack of self-control, addiction, violent or anger, wrath, stuff like that. And then you'll have violence. And so each of those will be able to focus specifically on it and address your trauma. Right. And once you address trauma like substance abuse, we believe substance abuse is not a disease, it's a result of unresolved trauma. So if you resolve your trauma, you can work on that. Same thing with anger management. Also, it's going to start with that, but we have, friends who do tapping. We have friends who do breath work. We have friends that do sound baths. We have friends that do meditation. So we're going to bring in as many different modalities as we can. And we'll partner with some people to actually put it in there. We'll take them in so they can perform it. And it will become part of what we're doing. So as of right now, it's not like, oh, you're going to do this one for this, because as you know, not every modality works for everybody. So we want to give people as many tools as possible. Um, but we want to introduce this idea here that, you're the hero. You can make this happen. Morgan, you got something? She leaned forward, so.
I was pretending I had something. I don't really have anything. I just felt the call to unmute myself. And um, yeah, I don't really have anything to add. As we put this together, we'll be developing like visuals because I mean, we're building this curriculum that is going to be correspondence and, we'll share where we are with each part of it. Um, And, I just see, and Rana, that was a really, really great question too, because, it gives us ideas. But I just see like, in those like books, you open it up and you see this map, like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, right? Like I see, like I want to create something like that for the workbooks and the materials for when this becomes an online course or a public course, right? So it's like Michael says, it's a choose your own adventure, right? So you open it up and it's like, okay, you are here. And you hear this cry in the wood, but you can't see it. And then you have to go on this journey, right? So I see us creating maps and like visuals to really amplify everything that Michael is saying. Which for would helps it'll just help people who need the visuals.
Right.
But it's the trauma journey, it's the self-discovery journey, and it's mirrored in all these mythic tales. And so it's just really fun. Like he handed me this morning some new sheets said about it's like you are here. What do you do? Choose this, turn to page 8. Choose this, turn to page 9. And I'm like, whoa, what? And so I'm like turning these pages, and then I find like I land on which archetype I am. And it's like, okay, are you ready to start the journey? Turn to page 14. And so it's like, and yesterday we were talking about it like it is. Like I keep using the Mario having to rescue the princess in the castle analogy. Like it's like it's an adventure and healing all in one go. I mean, there's just so much and it's shifting and changing and growing and but I'm just so excited for it all. So I don't really have anything to add. Just
Yeah, it's really a skillful means. Using skillful means to work a person's mind. You're learning, I mean, you're working with transmuting the person's mind in a very skillful way. It's not the finger pointing at the moon. It's a map that will get you there.
Right. And there's, the analogy that I use, my whole journey is an hourglass shape. You know, in the inferno, you're coming down the circles of hell to the point, and then there's a turning point. And when you reach that, it flips over, and then you're coming back up, right? And in this, when you look at lifestyles, right? You look at the guys who are in gangs and crime and all that stuff. They're coming down here. There's all the, there's pride, there's loyalty, there's honor, there's all these things here, but they're twisted. We're seeing them in the wrong way. We think that it's like they're good concepts, but we're using them in a way that's harmful for ourselves. So when we flip that and we start climbing back up, we find true love, we find true honor, true pride, true belonging, and people in ways that are beneficial to yourself and the world, and not harmful to those in the way, because you can benefit the gang and not help the world, right? So we're literally flipping it. It's inverted. It's as above, so below. Any of those that have done any of that studies, you'll know it. And one of the things that we're going to be bringing in as well, because it's interesting for me, just because again I'm a geek. But while I was in prison, I taught myself classical Latin. So one of the things that I've learned through our studies with trauma and all that is that, the neuroplasticity of the brain allows you to rewire your brain. But you can literally change your mind, but you have to have structure. You have to have organization. You have to have order. You have to think in a positive way. So we're going to teach people Latin. Like, you can't come any more structured and ordered, and like this is like, just little things to pick up here and there, but it will help rewire their brain. Those
Yes.
injuries that they have, it'll bridge those gaps. Like, so there's so much going on. I mean, I know we don't have like an ironed out presentation of this. I'm just kind of talking about what we're doing, but this is people are excited about it. We have prisons that want us to come in. Carmen here works at the prison. We love having her here because she gets to, she helps the guys inside. So we want to bridge those gaps between staff and residents. We don't want people continuing these trauma cycles. We want everybody to treat each other as human, work together, and find a way to end the need for prisons rather than shut all the prisons down, right?
That's correct. And if I may, Michael, I mean, this analogy with Dante's Inferno, it's very transformational. It doesn't only work. Yes, it's meant to help people, but it's also like an incarcerated population, but it also helps the staff. Because, for example, you mentioned the transformational hero, for example. Transformation doesn't happen only once, even in our lifetime. As we grow as individuals, professionals, we come across so many things that want us to grow the iron wall again, and just say, well, the heck with it. Why am I even doing this? But um, at least to me, what all this means is not just taking it into the institution, which I hope we could do it, Cal, and but also bring staff in and teach them this. And this will also educate staff members where they stand in their own lifetime, and also contaminate them with this good positive energy, and want them to carry this on with coworkers, and hopefully help us be also be able to give these form of trainings as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Carmen. And like I've always said, we've never wanted to end. We don't want to take jobs from correctional officers. We want to transform their
Mhm.
job description. We want them to be guardians. We want them to be protectors. We want them
Yeah.
to be coaches. But you can't do that if you're stuck in a trauma circle. If you're stuck in hell and you're just going through this stuff and you guys are traumatizing each other back and forth, nobody's going to heal. Who's going to be the one that helps somebody to walk through and get out, right? If we get rid of the need for prisons, we're going to have a lot of correctional officers who are now going to be great mentors for kids and for high school students who need to find a way to stay out of trouble. So, like, we don't want to take jobs. We want to help everybody reach a point where they can help each other and see each other as human and keep people out of that inferno. Okay, well, I mean, I have talked a lot. Anyone have any questions, thoughts, concerns, burning desires? Want to do a jig? This is, we got, that's my thing.
I just can't wait to see the curriculum, Michael. This is Carmen again. I'm really excited about this. And this way, I've done teaching in a different way, but I can't wait to see this. This is at a different level for me. But I do want to learn it definitely because if I want this to happen, at least where I'm at, I'm going to have to be the beginner, the initiator, and then train people as I go to help me out.
Yeah. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you for doing that because I mean it's so important. And this is what we want. We want everybody to learn this material so we can pair you with the people inside, and it doesn't even have to be people inside. It could be kids in foster care. It could be transition age foster youth. It could be kids in a juvenile hall in a camp. What Or it could just be your neighbor, your best friend. Everybody needs a new start. Everybody needs the ability to learn about their trauma and to rediscover the fact that they're the hero of their own story. This is why we do this work. So the more that you're here, you learn about it, the more you'll be able to take this to the world. Okay, Morgan, you have any house cleaning? I mean, housekeeping?
I mean, I have, there's lots of housekeeping. Um,
Not this house.
no, I know, I know, I know. I just, as Carmen was speaking, I'm getting like teary-eyed because, I know the power of this work. I know it works. And, you know, I, I've had the opportunity to go into prison and, do different kind of work and just it would be such an honor to go to your prison and go to all the prisons and go to all the kids and go to the foster system. And for me, my lived experience is addiction. And so it's always been in my heart to create a space for people to realize they're the hero of their own story and that they have the power to change and all these things that help me too, right? And so starting to get really emotional when Carmen was speaking, and I was imagining us in there doing, bringing what Michael and I have put together and just helping and being in community and healing and doing the breathing and just providing a space of safety, if even just for a day, just then you have that, you can take that with you, right? I'm just so ah, I'm so moved by it all and I just can't wait. And thank you all for being here. And hi, shout out to Ali's dad, who joined. It means the world to me. It means the world to us. And please stay connected to us and you'll learn as we go. And we got this one letter and I'll read it to you quick because we got our first letter from Salinas Valley. So we're going to send a flyer into prisons, and we'll probably get a lot more letters of people who are interested. And these are going to be the people who we start our correspondence course with. And he says, good afternoon. Hi, my name is Mario. Today at school here in Salinas, we got a visit from one of your staff members along with his service dog. He gave a good presentation, and I would like to enroll into New Start Enterprises if possible. I know you guys are just kicking it off. I'm open-minded to anything that you're willing to share with me. I hope to hear back from you guys. Thank you for your time. May you all continue to have a good day. And he wrote that the day Michael went in to speak. So, this is so close to my heart, this work. And I'm just really, really excited for it and just honored and grateful, grateful, grateful that you are all here on this journey with us. So I don't really have any other housekeeping stuff. I mean, we're starting.
I was going to say, Morgan, you should give out the address in case anyone has someone in prison they want to write to us.
Okay, I will do that. Maybe I'll put it in the follow-up email also. So we do send these links out on our email list, and we're madly texting them out as well. So, but the address, we got a PO box. So if anybody has contacts in prison or anybody, they can write us there. So I'll put that in the chat also. But just to remind people. So we had a kickoff meeting last Wednesday, and then we decided we're going to do 2 meetings a week on we thought Tuesday and Thursday, because it's not right up against a weekend and there's a day in between. So we thought Tuesday meetings have, we'll tell you where we're at. We'll share parts of the program, the curriculum, the wins, the successes, the not successes, whatever we've got to share. And then Thursday we'll come together as community and have more of like an open kind of processing group, discussion group, conversation, and just connect with each other. So I look forward to seeing you on Thursday too, if you can join.
And we'll also invite some of our friends to do different modalities, tapping, breathing, yoga.
Yeah.
So
And I'd love to, keep that open for, have people come in and talk a little bit about their new starts, right? What was your new start? So, and like Michael said, we're going with the flow. But I think it's important that we build community. Community does heal. It really does. And so we'll be doing that on Thursday evenings. So yeah, I'll put the address in the chat for everyone, but I'll also put the newsletter link if you're not on it for whatever reason. Sign up so you can get our emails with this information, and we'll only spam you good content, I promise.
Rana has something.
Go ahead, Rana.
I don't know if you said this. I took off for a bit. I was thinking about everything you said. Are we going to be learning this on Tuesdays? Are we going to be learning this curriculum?
Yes.
I said we would. Yeah. Okay. And it's going to be Tuesdays, right?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of introducing right now. We were kind of like, do we run them through the curriculum? Do we do the just introduce? So, I mean,
I want to run through the curriculum. If it's being offered, I definitely want it.
okay, well, we'll start doing that. So we went through one archetype. We may only get one archetype a week if it's with this amount of conversation. But yes, I'm definitely open. I want everybody to have this information. Everybody needs to know this. Like, the ancients wrote this stuff down for a reason.
Humanity's been usurped, and this program is actually helping people to restore themselves. I think this is touching so many different levels.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. You guys have done a great job.
Thank you. I would like to hear Eartha because she's a hero that returned. She's on mute.
I had to go up here because work is real busy today. What was your question? I'm sorry.
It's just your feedback, your thoughts on it. We know that you're a hero.
I like it actually. I was thinking about different, you know how like they teach you in there like different groups and stuff. They tell you about the hero, the middle child, and the babe. I kind of look at my notes and stuff, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So when you were saying that, that's what I was thinking about, the hero, the one that's always have to be. That's how I was going back there. But then I started thinking the way you were thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like in the more positive way. You know how they try to teach you that way, but the way that you're showing is a more better way because we're going back into the community and to help and to give our stories and you know what I'm saying let me tell you what really caught my attention, that rewiring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that just hit the nail on the head for me because I don't know, my brain, you have to rewire your brain. Like no matter what, I don't care what it is, I do not think about illegal stuff. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Especially coming up from the type of environment that I came, everything was always, I was born into it. You know what I mean? I never knew how to do nothing else but to do illegal stuff. But then to have my brain rewired with going into the prison system, I was doing my thing up in there, but also I was trying to change and rewire myself. And when I was able to rewire myself, I seen the difference. You know what I mean? I had to rewire my whole thought, you know what I mean? My whole everything. And I'm happy. I'm really excited to see what this is about, because that rewiring, that's very important to me. For me, it was because until I was able to even know what that meant, I was lost, But when I was able to find out what rewiring, because I've heard it before, but I never knew, how to do that until I learned my own how to rewire and to take accountability and the groups and just pay more attention to the things that's for change, basically, So I'm excited. You know me, I'm all for helping those that was incarcerated, also helping people out here too, because they need it too, And I'm just waiting to see what's next. I can't wait to learn the curriculum. It's different for me. I like it. I was listening. I was like, okay, I like to learn new things, and that's what you're presenting to me, and I thank you for that. Um, so you said that we get to go back into the prisons and stuff. That's exciting right there. I'm gonna be nervous because I don't know. Every time I try not to be myself because my being uncomfortable, I tend to mess up. So I just told myself I'm just gonna be myself no matter what. You know how like sometimes you'll go. I don't know if I'm making sense. You know how sometimes you'll go around certain areas or certain place and you try to be something like, okay, I'm gonna act like this because I'm gonna be. But it's just so I just have to be myself where I go. I'm excited about if I'm able to go back up into the prisons and teach the curriculum you guys are sharing, because also I'm gonna be learning for myself too. You have to keep reminding yourself things like how I think so. I don't know if this is this group or the other group, because I was listening while I was working about change or something. We was talking about change or something like that. It's hard to do that, and that's when the rewiring come in at, you can change. Like he told me, he said one of the guys was like, I haven't changed. And I was like, what? But then he was like, because I'm always still that person. You feel me? But what I did was I rewired my mind. And I was like, oh, okay. I like the way he said that, because it's easy for us to fall back into our old behavior. It's so easy. Anybody can do that. That's just so simple. All I got to do is go around my old friends. And there it is, and everything I learned and taught myself and try to change my rehabilitation and go straight out the window, because old behaviors, what is this? What did they say? It's hard to die from. But, so I'm excited. I hope I didn't talk too much, but I am excited. I missed y'all too.
Yeah. We miss you too, Eartha. We're looking forward to seeing you. Um, yeah, so that is an overview. This is what we're doing. Allie, you got something? I see you lean forward.
I'm just so excited for this. It feels like such a universal, cohesive program. And I love that you guys are bringing it to the people that need it the most. And I love that you're also bringing it to the workers and people like us who just can use it in our daily life, like me and my dad. I can see everyone at my grad school benefiting from this as well. And thank you for I can see the hours and hours of work you guys put into creating the archetypes and creating a curriculum from scratch, basically. I know you guys kind of mentioned it in the last meeting, but this meeting, it's like you could kind of see the dozens and hundreds of hours of work you put into it. And I don't know, I feel fired up and I feel really excited to start this curriculum. And thank you guys for doing all of this. It's phenomenal. You guys are just phenomenal.
Thank you, Allie. And Morgan often says, where's my husband at? So she
True.
doesn't see me very often. I'm right here in front of the computer.
It's true. I was gonna say, why don't you show them this one of the stacks of the
Oh,
hours of work? This
that's
is
one. That's not even half of what I've created already. So we have 5-year curriculum, 1-year curriculum, 12-month, 12-week curriculum. Like we have one on facing the beast. We have, the one for the raid code. We have one descent and return. Like, yeah, but it all follows the same pattern. You have to choose to go into the underworld to go and face your fears so you can bring back the gold to help save the world.
I can't think of a single person who this doesn't apply to. Like, I think that this could I don't know, benefit everyone. And I'm really excited to jump in with both feet and to see how this goes. So,
Oh, Allie, it's so good to see you and welcome to your dad. Please join us again. Like this, you're spot on.
yeah.
This is for the world. This is not, yes, we focus on highly traumatized populations, but when I learned about trauma, I was in a cycle of I had a good childhood. Why am I depressed? Why am I addicted? Why am I lonely? Why am I suicidal? Why do I feel these feelings? Nothing happened to me. And then I learned what childhood trauma was, and its effects, and it doesn't have to be a capital T trauma, a huge event that happens, right? Neglect is one of my aces. And it's a big one. And I'm like just seeing the effects on that of how that affected my self-worth, my belief systems, how I felt about myself, and then seeing myself in these archetypes. I'm the seeker looking for solutions outside of myself. I'm the caretaker, care for everybody, but I forget my own needs. And where did that lead me? It led me into being stuck in one of these circles of hell. And why can I get out of it? And then so this is the path for all of us, and it's it's so it's just right, when you land at a place and you're like, I'm meant to be here. It's this is it for me. And yes, I moved to California from Prairie Town, Alberta, and it's like I feel like that little lost inner child is stepping out into the big bad world, and it's I still feel that very much so because that child has been running my life. It's just amazing, and it's great to meet everybody who I haven't met. And I'm just excited for it. I'm excited for it. This is just like the touch of the surface. There's just so much more. So, oh, it's so good to see you all. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I saw Justin came on the camera. You had something to say, or
Yeah, I'll say something real quick. Michael, this is quite impressive. Major kudos to you and everybody else. Morgan, if you worked on it, I'm very new to this whole thing, but it does sound quite impressive, I gotta say. And it almost coincides with what I do right now. So I work for this company called 0 Point Activation. And what we do is we go into these facilities for suicidal kids and teens, and we do Tai Chi, yoga, art therapy, sound healing, and all those things. But that's just for the kids and the teens. You guys are adding the prison element to it, which I think is fantastic. So I think there could be a lot of overlap here, maybe potential partnership down the line. But well done all around. Great job. And yeah, looking forward to hearing more about how all this goes and unfolds.
well, thank you. And we're definitely looking forward to having more of a conversation with you about that because, those kids are the same ones that are in prison. You're still a kid in prison that got traumatized. If you get traumatized at 3 years old and you don't address it growing up, 12 years old, you join a gang, that 3-year-old made that decision. When you're 40 years old sitting in prison and still doing that stuff, that 12-year-old is still running your life. So you're the 12-year-old that's actually being run by the 3-year-old is running your life when you're 40 years old. And what does a 3-year-old know about life as a 40-year-old, as an adult, about the world? So we have to address that trauma, heal all those inner children, and make sure that everybody lives as their true selves.
And I like that quote you said, you have to go into the underworld to face your fears and return with gold. That was tight.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we'll keep keeping you until you tell us no. So, I think that's everything. Unless anyone has any questions, Morgan put our address in there, and a link to the newsletter if you want to sign up for the mailing list. We'll be doing this every Tuesday at noon, every Thursday 5:30. Morgan will run the 5:30 meetings on Thursday and bring that softness and that feminine touch to everything and really helping the community.
The sacred feminine. We need her back.
Yes. Hmm.
Yes, yes, I'm so excited. So, for efficiency, it's the same link. So you'll get the links in the email or through text messages, but the link you use today for this Tuesday will be the same link for every Tuesday. And then the same with Thursday. When you get the link for Thursday, it'll be the same for all the Thursdays until we change it for whatever reason. Because we're like, oh, do we add a Wednesday meeting? Do we do this? And so who knows where this will go and grow and evolve. But I look forward to seeing you on Thursday or next Tuesday or whenever you can join us again. And yeah, we're here.